under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of Michigan and to the state for which it stands, two beautiful peninsulas united by a bridge of steel, where equal opportunity and justice to all is our ideal. Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Malama?
Here.
Shippers? Spoolman?
Here.
Stevens?
Here.
Mayor Filkins?
Here. Okay, at this time, we need a motion to approve the agenda, but we have some amendments to that, and so I'll go ahead and read that if someone would be willing to make the motion. So we need a motion to approve the agenda as amended, and the amendments include an update regarding the purchase of City of Cadillac water main and an emergency purchasing communication regarding the telephone system to the city manager's report. Also, the addition of a closed session after the good of the order to discuss pending litigation, Blake R. Myring versus Civil Service Commission of the City of Cadillac, case number 14-25152-AS, and Clam Lake Township and Charter Township of Herring versus the State Boundary Commission, ETAL, claim of appeal.
Can you repeat that? No.
I am not going to repeat that.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the noted amendments.
Support?
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers? Spoolman?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Malama?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes, motion carries. And at this time, we will open the floor for public comment. We do ask that the first public comment is pertaining to something that is on our agenda this evening, and we ask that you keep your comments to at a minimum or a maximum of 3 minutes. And if you would, please say your name and your address and write it down so that Sandy has it for the record.
Michael McCready, Manton, Michigan, proud of it. Couple of things. One, I was asked to ask what the costs are going to be regarding building inspections when that changes from the county to the city. Is there going to be a change in the monies that have to be laid out? You're going to talk about that. This other thing I have is more or less about tomorrow, but you'll let me get away with it because you usually do. I want to give you the contract for Vance Edwards, since you're going to consider that tomorrow. Man has more perks than a pot of coffee. One for you.
Thank you. I have one.
You already have one. One for you. Did I already give you one?
You did.
Pudgy.
Here's something.
And for you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. But there's a band concert in the park, and that's where I'd like to go. And I kind of wonder about this building inspection because us and Matt, and we have our own. But thank you.
Thank you.
Dale Whaley, owner Whaley Construction, 215 Wright Street. Although I see a need for a building inspector, I don't see a need to hire a firm outside the city limits, outside the city in general. I see that I think myself hiring a person such as we had would be better for the community, would work closer with the contractors here in town. Hopefully you'll take that in consideration. That's about all I have to say at this point.
Thank you, Dale.
My name is Lon Reddy. I live at 2480 East 24 Road. I'm outside the city. I'm in Colfax Township. I'm a builder in the Cadillac area. I also build for Wexford Habitat for Humanity, of which I have constructed 8 houses in the city limits of Cadillac the past 4 years. I remember when it went from city building inspection, turned over to the county. At the same time I was cleaning up a mess at Habitat, Bob Skybrow was cleaning up a mess in the city. Now you're going to take it away and turn it over to somebody, from what I understand, outside the county. It's my opinion that the city would be further ahead to work with the county, give that money to the county building department to put somebody on locally, somebody local hired to take the job and work with Bob in both city and county. We'd all be better off. And the money then stays here, not outside of our city, outside of our county, and possibly even out of our state. I mean, I'm not sure who all you're interviewing for taking the job. You know, but I do know that I've worked closely with Bob to clean up everything in the city that Habitat had, and he had a lot of work to clean up everything that was left behind. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me to go outside of our area.
Thank you.
I'm Ken Bigelow, 2481 South Lake Mitchell Drive, Cadillac. I've been a contractor around here for a number of years. Worked with all your previous building inspectors, which always worked well. And we didn't have a building inspector for a while. What you're going to find is a lot of gypsies move back in the area, doing shoddy work for people, and it gets pretty costly. So we do need one, there's no doubt about that, of some type of a system where we got somebody to watch over things a little bit. But as a contractor, a lot of things can go awry when you're working on a project. And one thing you don't want to have to worry about is getting something tore apart and have to wait for somebody to come and do an inspection if they're out of town. So my understanding is that you're going to hire some firm from out of town or something? Is that what was being proposed? I just see that slowing the whole process down, excuse me, and then be more costly for the homeowners or the business owners, because we're going to be paid for waiting and all the problems that we end up having. And as a contractor, you're always going to be thinking about things that can go awry, and you're going to put them in your bids. So it'll get more expensive, more than likely, for people who are having things done. So I just think it'd be very unwise to hire somebody from out of town, not to mention, I don't know why you'd want to give city monies to a firm out of town instead of keeping it local. Thank you.
Hi, Mark Vandermoon, 7800 South 35 Road. Also a contractor in Cadillac for quite a few years. In total agreement that we really think this should be a local inspector. Put the money in the local economy. It's very difficult to deal with state inspectors, let alone an out-of-town firm, in my opinion. That's about all I got.
Thank you.
Ed Richards, 1701 East 46th Road, here in Cadillac. Again, I live outside the city. However, I have pulled permits for work inside the city. To me personally, keeping everything local is extremely important. Also, speaking for my contractor brethren, if you will, the likelihood of possibly delays regarding inspection. Sometimes people entrust us with their most sacred place to come into their home and do work. We're entrusted to perform this service. Let's just say one of us have their house opened up, and all of a sudden, oh, the inspector can't make it. Well, where does that leave us? And worse yet, where does that leave the homeowner? It could be either any one of you. You know, I feel that the need is there to have inspector. You know, like we need somebody to make sure that we're doing the work right. Because with it can fall through the cracks, if you will. Having somebody here local, especially somebody that's familiar with all of us, those that have spoke already, we've been licensed for years. You know, we do our part. You know, we give back to our community. I think it's really, really important that we have somebody here local, somebody that has done the work and can recognize the need for the timely inspections and to keep the money here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no one else at this time, we'll close public comments. And now we have the consent agenda, and this evening we have the minutes from the regular meeting held on July 7th to approve, and we also have some closed session minutes that we need to first review before we can approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Spolman.
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
Melama.
Yes.
Shippers. Mayor Filkins.
Yes. Motion carries. And at this time, we will move into the public hearings, Marcus?
Yes. I will begin if that's okay. The first item, Mayor and members of the City Council, is a public hearing with respect to the approval of a resolution adopting an ordinance that'll vacate a portion of Weber Street and also reserving a public utility easement. This is an item that has been before council on several occasions. As of now, the Don's Auto Clinic has acquired the former CWTA building officially. They are now the new owners of that site. And this request is again before the City Council. I am going to request Jerry to walk you through the site plan so that you have a better idea as to the area being vacated. If you could.
Sure. If you see the white roofed building, that's the former CWTA site, and then you see the purple line, I guess I call it, or purple swatch that's running between Mitchell and Burlingame, and then directly south of that is Don's Auto Clinic. The only section we're dealing with is that purple section between Mitchell and Burlingame, and Don's Auto Clinic. Again, the owner of both properties on either side, has requested that that right-of-way, which is now a public street, be vacated. They'll tie the two sites in together, so to speak, so that they can use them more efficiently for business operations. And Mr. Winkle is here tonight, saw him somewhere. There he is, in case you have any questions.
That's
All right.
it.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Winkle?
And there might be, Mayor, there may be somebody from the public here as well.
I think it's a public hearing.
Yep,
yeah.
it is. Would anyone like to come and comment or ask questions regarding what has been proposed? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, one thing I should have mentioned is we did, as a courtesy, we notified the two property owners abutting the intersection of Burlingame and Weber, just to let them know what was happening in case they wanted to comment. But we haven't heard anything from them, so we did it as a courtesy.
Okay.
In the correspondence in your packet, under the council action recommendation, there is a note that if the vacating is approved, it's recommended that it include the following single condition, which is that any development of the property shall require evidence of a clean title before said development shall occur. This was an issue that was discussed rather at length about a year or so ago. I believe the end result was the former property owner issuing some form of a legal notice to try and find heirs of the family that dedicated or donated the property initially. Presumably that would be what the current property owners would also need to do.
And they weren't able to find them, were they?
I do not believe they were able to. Nope.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions or comments, then can we look for a motion to approve?
You close the...
You have to close.
Oh, I have to close it, okay. We don't have any more questions or comments, so we'll close the public comment at this time.
A refresher, Mr. Adams, was this something that previously went to the planning board? Or is it not required?
Not required.
That's my question, too. I guess I'm surprised that the residents further, like, than just on the intersection weren't notified.
There's nothing in the statute or in the city code that requires notification, so as a courtesy, like we've done in the past, we typically notify the immediately abutting property owners. And that's how we've done it in light of the fact there is no requirement. I should also mention, too, the fact that we did do traffic counts of this area, very minimal. In fact, for example, if you look at Burlingame, north and south of Weber, the counts are, the 24-hour two-way counts are a little over 440 vehicles. About half of those are associated with Don's Auto Clinic. So the amount of traffic on the system is very, very limited. And then if you look at Weber itself, between Mitchell and Burlingame, it's about 270 vehicles. Again, the majority of those being directly associated with Don's Auto Clinic. So the system's, Weber Street at least, doesn't get a great deal of use. And of course, we're not closing Burlingame per se. So the amount of traffic that's found on the system is quite small or limited.
So for the people who live here,
They would have to come in on this
they
side.
come in here or 13th Street? Is
That is correct. Right. Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the resolution that was provided, I don't know if it was just mistakenly put in, or the resolution references that after a recommendation from the City Planning Commission, having the City Council may by resolution or ordinance change that. Is that something that isn't really supposed to be in the resolution, Mr. Pecha, about the Planning Commission's involvement?
I am going to assume that that was a typo, or not a typo, but a mistake. Is that, you see that? What page are you looking at,
It's on
Councilmember
The
Stevens?
first page.
It's on the bottom of the first page of the ordinance, or the resolution, I mean.
Yeah, I see that, Mike.
That's prior to introducing.
Right.
And I was trying to remember back on the one we had over Kenwood, that vacation. The alley that we had to have
That was
planning
before
board.
my time.
I'm sorry, the recent one for that
Oh.
alley.
But that was a resolution just introducing the
Does it need to be amended or something?
prior.
If I may, there's another section in the city code as well that delegates the responsibility just to the city council, and we conferred with council, and that's what we were following.
Then that's what should be in here.
The city attorney just mentioned that the resolution where it inaccurately states that is the resolution that introduced this item and set it for the public hearing. I'm looking quickly at the resolution for this
We
evening.
have the wrong resolution in here.
I'm sorry?
We have the wrong resolution in here.
Yeah, that's the resolution that set it. Is there a different resolution that you're looking at?
No, I'm looking now at the resolution to adopt the ordinance vacating.
All right, it doesn't list it, does it?
No.
No. You've got the right one.
We have the one that says resolution to introduce. You have one that says resolution to adopt.
After that, they're both in here.
Oh, it's further back.
While we're looking through our materials, I do want to say, since Mr. Winkle is here, that it's really, I really appreciate Don's Auto Clinic. It's growth in this community and staying in the community and doing business here. I drove by there the other day and I almost stopped, and I think I will one of these days. Got a nice little car there I want to look at, but I do appreciate, I do appreciate you staying in town here, and I know that you have choices, so we're going to try to accommodate you here.
Sounds like you don't.
Mayor, members of council, I don't see any reference to the plan commission in the resolution to adopt.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was looking at the first one, but
No, you're okay.
that one referencing the planning commission, I had written down a question to ask about what the planning commission's action was, because I know in the past we've had it, but it's sounding like we don't have to have a planning commission for a vacation, that it was just
Either
with
or.
the Kenwood alley, we did that more as a courtesy than a must.
Kenwood Alley. Can you refresh my memory?
Was it Kenwood Road? The alley we just recently went through this whole
okay.
process.
Jerry, can you opine on that?
Really can't. I don't, I'd have to research it to know why the difference.
Okay.
Like I said, we conferred with council regarding this particular vacating, and there's no requirement that it go to.
I don't know if there's a difference, obviously. If I did, I would have told you. That's why I looked over at my development director. So,
Mr. Adams, refresh my memory. Wasn't it about a year ago that we talked about this and we were going to bring it up, and then the sale did not go through, and then now?
Summer of 2012.
Okay.
This came before, it was going to come before council.
Yep.
And then the CWTA and Don's Auto Clinic couldn't reach an agreement at that time, so the matter was dropped.
But it was brought up publicly, too. I believe, at
I
council
don't
meeting.
recall.
I believe it was.
The code section, there's a difference in the way you deal with platted lots versus non-platted street vacations. So the section in the prior resolution dealing with the planning commission likely came from the Kenwood ordinance or resolution introducing that ordinance. So under your code, and specifically 20-4 point or parens A, says City Council, after recommendation from the City Planning Commission made by resolution or ordinance, open or vacate a street or alley or a portion of a street or alley, or may extend, widen, or change the name of an existing street or alley, or approve the division of platted lots. Exempt splits need only be reviewed and approved by the zoning administrator. And that's under a section dealing with plat amendments. So as here, there is not a plat, it's a city street without a plat, or a street not in a platted subdivision.
Which is why it doesn't need to go to planning.
Correct.
Good question.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to adopt ordinance number 2014-06, vacating a portion of Weber Street and reserving a public utility easement.
Support.
Sandy, could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Malama?
Yes.
Shippers? Spelman?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Motion carries.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The next two items are related. We do have a rather short slideshow that we'd like to show as well. But just also for frame of reference, the City Council did conditionally agree to bringing on AGS, Associated Government Services, at your last meeting for the management of our building inspection services itself, should the state of Michigan concur with the requested change. The city did, again, just for a point of reference, bid that out and did not receive any local bids for those services. We did interview all three firms that we did receive bids from. One firm all the way from Kentucky actually flew up for the interview, but ultimately it was our recommendation to go with a company that actually does this work, and this is their mainstay, which is building inspectional services. Moving that forward, Jerry, if you could walk through the following slides, that would be great.
Sure. I have a few slides. This is shorter than the last time, so let's see if this works. It does. You saw this slide at the last meeting, and basically the goal was to, within the city, institute a full range of inspection services under the city's jurisdiction. And as we talked about previously, for example, the last building inspector was licensed in building and electrical. At that time, the county did the plumbing and mechanical, and we also did the fire, being that we had a fire marshal in-house. Prior to that, the building inspector did the building and mechanical. So we've never offered a full range, at least not in the immediate future, we've never offered a full range of services in the city, and that's part of the goal. I want to talk about permit fees, since I know it's an area of great interest. And in terms of those fees, the goals, at least some of the primary goals, are we'd like to cover the contracted inspection services. If we're going to contract with a firm, which I believe you are, then we would like to cover those. We would like those fees, if possible, to partially offset some of the city's basic program costs. We will have some costs as well, and I'll get into those in a second. And we want it to be generally consistent. We'd like to be equal to or always less than, but at least generally consistent with current building permit fees. We felt that was important. In terms of the city's role, you didn't see this slide, but basically we're going to have general program oversight. I'm not sure who's going to be responsible for that yet. There will be some public coordination with the public. We're not going to forget the public. It's counter and via the phone. We'll have fiduciary responsibilities, making sure that everything is being done according to the way it should be done. There will be the need for some public information programs that we'll have to develop to inform the public of the inspection process, and I can see those repeated periodically. There'll be some zoning and building permit coordination. We'll have to spend a few dollars on form supplies, and there'll be some file maintenance. So there will be a few costs that will fall to the city. So again, would like to try to cover those as best as possible. Anthony, our fire marshal, he recently did a comparison of what our proposed fees would be using, for example, AGS, along with a 5% additional factor against what the county fees currently are. And we've got a couple of tables that will show you. We didn't, on these two tables that I'm going to show you, we didn't try to do every type of building that was feasible, but basically just took a few residential and a few commercial industrial. One of the difficulties in generating or trying to do this sort of thing that he found is that these are estimates. The levels that are devoted to plan review and the number and type of inspections, generally they should be the same among jurisdictions, but sometimes they're a bit slightly different, I'll say, as well as based on the needs or desires of an inspector. And also, I think we're all aware of the fact that construction projects commonly vary in design and with respect to the elements that are included, so it's really difficult to say, to try to compare apples to apples. But nonetheless, let's look at a couple. These are for residential. Anthony took a 2,000 square foot dwelling, and the county fee, based on his understanding, it would be a little over $1,100, $1,134. The city's fee, again, with the 5% add-on, would be $1,177, a difference of about $40. On a 350 square feet kitchen remodel, my wife would love to see that happen, by the way. She's probably watching tonight. The county, this is where there's a fair difference. The county fee would be about $303, the city's about $502. A furnace replacement, county fee would be $100, the city's fee would be $53. On a deck, the county $80, the city fee $111. And then on a typical 24 by 24 foot garage, the county fee would be about $268, and the city's fee, again, with the administrative fee, would be $310. For commercial, which includes mercantile, retail, industrial, and so forth, if we take an 800 square foot high hazard addition, which the city sees a fair number of because of the types of industries we have, the county fee would be $354, the city's fee would be $340. On a 50,000 square feet moderate hazard new industrial facility, the county fee would be $11,570, the city fee would be $11,028. And then on a 5,000 square feet mercantile new, or retail, for example, the county fee would be a little over $1,200, $1,220, whereas the city fee would be $1,583. So just to kind of give you some idea of where the fees come into play. In terms of the program cost permit fees, one of the things that obviously should be done is they need to be reviewed annually for adjustment. Hopefully they can come down. That tends not to happen, I realize that. We do appreciate the fact, too, the 5% administrative fee is not likely to cover city costs for the various things we need to do. But nonetheless, we felt that to go much higher would really create too much of a difference between the current fee structure of the county as well as what we may or what you may institute. And very importantly, the potential for the fees to cover all of our program costs really is going to require a robust level of building activity, which we haven't seen in a fair number of years. Things are improving. I've talked to a number of builders, and they all seem to be fairly busy. But it's really going to take a robust level of building activity. Hopefully we'll see that sometime in the near future. And with that, that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, if there are any questions or concerns that can be brought forward from the public?
Just listening to what's been going on in the building.
Could you come up so that the people at home can hear you? Thank you.
My name's Awana Beltman on 820 2nd Avenue. No, it just makes me curious, number one, where does this company, or where are they from? If these gentlemen have to call for an inspection, how far does this guy have to come? Or a number of guys. And that's one of the big things for me is, you know, I believe too, we should have it in city. If you've got one person handling all this stuff, that's, you know, and you're saying if the housing market increases, there might be enough to pay them. We're going to have to, where's all the money coming from the city? The city doesn't have extra money just laying around to pay for all these other services and administration. And I don't know, it just sounds like it's not thought out as much as it should have been.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. Not, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I do have a concern since we last met. I did hear from several people, from contractors and from architects who have had some dealings, not necessarily in Cadillac, but with the company that we are looking at using. And they didn't have a good experience. And so one thing that I wanted to ask was whether or not we had the opportunity to have any local references in any of the discussions that were had when we were looking at this company.
The references that were called, I don't believe, Anthony, were they local?
This company, to answer a couple of prior questions.
Anthony, if you could go to the microphone, that'd be great.
Answer the question about their location, too.
Yes, to bring everybody up to speed, this company is actually headquartered out of Richland, Michigan. I believe it's an area outside of Kalamazoo, in a township outside there. They've been working in Benzie County. Benzie County 2 to 3 years ago, I can't quite remember the time frame, but Benzie County privatized and subcontracted this company to do their work at the county level, county of 30 to 33,000 people. At that time, AGS, Associated Government Services, they based their personnel out of, and to this day, they are all based out of the Benzie County Governmental Center. They're in Beulah, Benzonia area. And actually, one of the prior buildings inspectors that worked for Benzie County does work for them. They use the same staff. They have a primary staff that they're going to use for delivery of the service, the same folks. So I can definitely appreciate the fact and respect the fact that, yes, contractors and inspectors need to be able to get to know each other and to work together. We don't need to be sending a different person, a stranger, to a local contractor. So we will have a pool of individuals that will be working with our local folks. Granted, we will have, you know, just like any other working person, there will be vacations, sickness, and they have staff to fill in when their lead folks are not available. And also to address concerns about timeliness with delivery of inspection. I was reviewing their proposal, I believe it's in item 4, under their delivery of services. And as long as their company policy is if the call for an inspection, if a contractor calls for an inspection before 3:30 in the afternoon, the day prior, it will be scheduled for the following day. So I call them at 3:29 today, I will have an inspection tomorrow. If it's called after 3:30 in the afternoon, they schedule it within 48 hours. So we did in their proposal, they gave us a list of municipalities that they used. I had worked in the Benzie County area previously, and I had known contractors throughout the area across Benzie County, and looked at some of the folks that you see building often, and contacted those folks to get an understanding of how their experiences had been. I received neutral opinions of their interactions. By neutral, I mean it's no complaints. And that's what I had received talking to, speaking directly with these contractors. And I didn't contact the municipalities that were given in. I mean, we had very like municipalities to reference off of, so.
Thank you.
Does that help?
It helps, but I still have the concern of the local architects and contractors specific. I mean, I realize there's a fear of the unknown out there, but this is a concern of the known. And so I just wanted to bring that up here.
I will say, as with any professional services contract, certainly it's subject to review. If there are issues that arise, this is assuming, of course, that the state allows us to move forward and get this responsibility back, and then the agreement that we conditionally approved a couple of weeks ago is also then in place with AGS. If there are issues that arise, I would say outside of the norm, we can obviously reevaluate our position with that company and try to look for another alternative. And that'd be the same with any outside contractor that we use. If there's issues.
I believe last week, or 2 weeks ago, the gentleman also referred to the time sequence of when the call would be placed and when he'd be coming in. So that was stated last meeting, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
A lot, and forgive me for just speaking, but a lot of this is really unknown. A lot of it's going to be based upon volume. We don't have a really good handle on what the volume will be, 6 months from now or a year from now, or when this eventually starts to unfold. I know that Mr. Gale from AGS, back when he answered a couple of questions from council, did mention some of the timing, and that depending upon volume, they might try to set a schedule for activity, because they are going to be pulling people in. And it would make good sense if they had several appointments in one day to try to reach. But the only thing I would offer back is back when the city used to provide the service, we only had one inspector. And if he was out sick, on vacation, or simply had a full schedule, there were definitely delays in getting to job sites as well. I think that we're going to experience growing pains, but it's the right move at this point to do.
Did you have something?
But I think you had a couple questions too, you know?
Yeah, I'm all over the board with this one. The comparison of the prices is got me concerned. I thought going into this that I would want to look at those prices and feel comfortable that the residents of the city of Cadillac weren't going to be paying more than what they're currently paying. And I'm not seeing evidence of that. I'm seeing that they'd probably be paying more. I recently had a bathroom remodel, and I don't see bathrooms on there. My guess is that most of the work that's done residentially are remodels, but I don't know that. There's not a lot of new homes going up within the city limits. And so for me to pay a difference between $300 and some or $500 and some to get my kitchen done or my bathroom done, that's a lot of money. So that's a concern of mine. It's good to get the feedback here from the builders in the area. I know a builder in Benzie County. I'd like to be able to talk to him myself, I think. It's interesting that we're getting all sorts of stories now. I don't think anybody understands, you know, the elephant in the room, if you will, the relationship that, or the reasons why we're moving in this direction, and the desire to have our own services, and I can appreciate that as well. But if we don't have a service where we actually have someone here who knows the business and can devote to being here and developing the relationships, you know, I don't know if that's going to be any better to the people that we're serving. It might be better for some, but I just don't know if it's going to be better for the average contractor or average home owner.
And if I may offer, and certainly Anthony or Jerry, correct me if my interpretation is wrong, but it's my understanding that there is essentially 2, possibly 3 layers of what I'll call local staff, regional staff that they have out of their Benzie office, and that those are going to be the people dedicated to working out on Cadillac. I also know that in talking with Mr. Gale, that depending again upon volume, you know, he's open to having somebody else locally based, not out of Benzie, but actually out of Cadillac, also serving our community too. In fact, he had even asked if we had any references from prior area and city building inspectors that we could forward to him, so that if there is some point in time that they need to look at expanding and bringing on additional people, that they could, you know, that they could do that and that they could have that presence here locally. Because he, again, being Mr. Gale, understands certainly the concerns that we addressed with them as a part of this process and forming the recommendation. These were very similar questions that were part of our interview about, you know, their ability to respond, their customer service, because we wanted again to make sure that there is those relationships that get created, which are going to take time to create, but get created between the local builders and the inspectors, because they are going to need to work with each other and talk with each other and communicate with each other in order to make, you know, the process, whether it's you know, a kitchen remodel or a new construction of an industrial site, make that process go as smooth as possible. You know, certainly we want Cadillac to be known as a place where people can come with our arms wide open. Yes, please come here and build in our community. We don't want people to fear, you know, coming to our community to build and do work here. And so that's absolutely not what we're looking at.
Art, you had something you wanted to add to the discussion?
I did. I have a couple questions or thoughts with it. Councilmember Spolman brought up a good point of remembering why this conversation came up in the first place. It's been good to hear some of the builders' comments, because sometimes we get the other end with the current situation that there's concern about it's too long to get a building inspection. That comment's been coming out by others over time as well. One of the thoughts that I really was hoping with this is those items that affect the builders would get clearly stated and solved. I'm a little concerned tonight that we're not sure who the city person is that's going to be the oversight of this. That concerns me. Because if we go this route, we need to know what the issues are, and the builders need to know that there's somebody that they can talk to that has authority to solve the problems. Because one of the concerns I know Mr. Petch has brought is when we had these concerns with the current arrangement, is the city had no authority. If there was an issue, we couldn't do anything about it. We were told that we didn't have authority and we weren't sure who had did it, the county. I just don't want to see us get in the same situation where we, you know, if we're doing this, we got to be clearly know this person at the city has the authority, they have the oversight, they are the person that builders can communicate with so that these items can get solved. If we don't have somebody responsible to do that, I'm concerned that we're not going to be solving the situation that we're in right now.
If I may address the question, which is, by the way, a very good question, and to try to clarify, the person actually with the authority to resolve issues is going to be the building inspector himself, and not somebody here on staff. With respect to oversight of the program itself, we have not completely vetted out how the communication is going to work between the departments, but essentially intake, if you will still happen at the front counter, the primary counter here at City Hall, as it does for most items of business. From that point, we're going to have somebody, one of our admins, trained as to how to get whatever the intake is over to AGS. It could be as simple as a phone call, scanning and emailing a document or a request, and then we will have the direct contact information, cell phone numbers, et cetera, of the actual inspectors to get them in touch with the builders or with the homeowner that are planning on doing anything from, you know, a new building to, you know, just putting a deck out in the back. Whether or not the sole responsibility of overseeing that operation and the internal filing, because we're going to want to create a mechanism of, you know, creating essentially a file jacket, if you will, whether it's electronic or in paper, yet to be figured out, but creating a file system internally for the things that we intake, as well as when we get invoiced, so that we can double check back. Okay, well, here's what the file has. Here's what we're being invoiced for. That's going to be a combination. I can say right off the bat of basically 3 departments: community development, finance, and the fire department through the fire marshal's activities.
I understand what you're saying, and I should clarify. I don't mean the person that's going to be the building inspector, but a builder calls and says, "Hey, I've made this contact. It's a week now. We haven't got an answer." The city has the authority to make sure that happens, because that's the part that I'm concerned. And frankly, what we've been told as a council, that's what's been missing now, is people have said, "Hey, I've been waiting. We're waiting on a project this year because we can't get the inspector." And that's what we need to make sure this new project, the new plan, solves those kind of issues and takes care of. You're right, the building inspector has that authority, but who has the authority on behalf of the city to say it's acceptable or not?
I hear exactly what you're saying, and I don't want to come out tonight and say, you know, it's going to be X department, because I might change my mind, but it's going to be one of those 3 is going to have the oversight of being that point, similar to how utilities, if there's an issue with respect to refuse or recycling, they're the ones that manage that contract, and if there's a missed pickup or a problem with service and they're not getting any service or customer service through the company itself, if you call the city, it's going to be that department that will reach out and make that call and say, "Hey, you know, what's going on to the people that we have?" And so what I'm saying is that that'll be something that we'll have to sort out here this fall, assuming that everything falls into place with the state of Michigan.
Could there be, to reassure the public, could there be like yourself, be responsible until you determine on who has the authority within the city?
Oh, sure.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I don't know if you're done, I'm sorry.
Well, go right ahead.
One is the unknown. There's no question about it. We're venturing into a new area. And correct me if I'm wrong, we have more services that are being offered now. Am I correct?
That is true.
So that has to be looked in relationship to the cost, because value has to equal price. Am I correct on the services? Second thing is, the way I see it, and I'll put myself out there, I have heard many complaints on the current service. I will say that When I checked out these complaints, I was told that we have no authority over the current system, and which we would have some authority in this system, or this service. And I think it definitely eliminates any potential conflict of interest that has occurred now, and especially in the future, for any future growth for the city. I just think it's a cleaner system. I do hear your concern about being outside the community. I understand local dollars are important. I understand that completely. But I do know that it is very difficult in a small community, no matter what service you contract with, not to have conflicts of interest. And those cause a lot of problems for us as a council, and they cause a lot of problems in the community. And I could elaborate on several situations in which that has happened. I would like to have it under our control. I think we have something to say then. I was extremely frustrated for the last 2 years with this current system. I have, trust me, the phone has burned many, many times on the line to Mr. Marcus, or Mr. Petcha, excuse me, and to Mr. Adams. And so I'll go on the line and say I'm definitely for it, and I've pushed it. And I've heard from Mr. Taylor, Tom Taylor, several times. I didn't know that he had the same issue. All of a sudden, we seemed to hook up and shared the same stories. So that's where I'm at, and I think if people should know where I'm coming from, and that's where I am.
If I can just add to the benefit of the city council, again, just to try to refocus the public hearing, that's what we're looking at doing this evening, which is to gain that control back. Similar to a few years ago when we relinquished that authority and that control. At that point in time, we did have a single in-house person basically providing some of these services. We are going to be providing all of the services now under our roof, and that's what this first ordinance or this first hearing is regarding. The second one, and although we just had the one slide presentation, is with respect to the fees themselves. But this one is just regarding the gaining that authority back, and then working on the time frame with respect to the state of Michigan. I believe they need everything for their October docket by August 15th, if I recall the date correctly.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
One other thing, if there are complaints, if we do go with this system, and you builders are having problems, feel free to give me a call. I'll take responsibility for any decision or any position I've taken.
Well, if I may say, I also need to know as well.
Oh, I will let you know. I will let you know.
Okay.
Okay, is there any further?
Well, I guess it would, if we're going to do this, it'd be nice to know who's going to manage it from our end, because it sounds like it needs management.
I 100% agree.
To hear that you didn't get any positive responses from builders in the county in which they're working is a concern of mine. That all of the references came back neutral. There weren't really any complaints. I mean, have we lowered ourselves so that quality is set at that level? And that's not quality, in my opinion. So that's a concern of mine. I want to do this, don't get me wrong. I want to do this for the reasons that you articulated. I just want to make sure that it works well for our customers. And I'm not convinced we're there yet.
I want to make sure that the contractors have a voice and they know where to go with that.
This may or may not be helpful. When we were in the business ourselves doing it, I received in one way, shape, or form a complaint at least once a week with respect to our inspectional services. I think there is a sort of predisposed nature of, sort of a knocking heads thing. Why is this being required? Isn't there another way around it? It's going to add cost, or we're not going to be able to get the job done on time. And there's a whole litany of perhaps excuses or debates that could happen between inspectors and builders and so forth. And I just think that there's a natural headbutting to a certain degree that happens. And I expect that that's going to happen when we get back in the business as well. I, too, and my staff are also very concerned about looking at the customer service end of this. We want to make sure that this company is being responsive to the needs that are out there, because they represent us. They are going to be, or they are rather, an agent of the city, appointed to that role of our, building, basically our building inspection department, our building services. So it's very important to all of us that there's success. Certainly, if it is my plan to have the internal communications between the multiple departments worked out before this actually commences, and it can't commence until after the State of Michigan's Construction Code Commission gives us the green light, and that won't happen until I believe mid-October at the earliest. So if by some chance it isn't worked out by then, but it should be, then certainly I would be the one primary go-to person if there were complaints or issues where they're not getting responses back. And even when I do have it worked out, I'm always available should somebody want to chat about their experience in working with them. If that's something that comes up, I'm always happy to get involved as well. So.
How long is it that we've had with the county, this arrangement has been?
At least 3 years, going on 4, maybe a little over.
And this is why I echo what Councilmember Spolman says, is some of the same complaints that I've heard for 3 years never got solved. And the answer, which I don't necessarily think was right, is, well, we don't have any say. But it went on until finally we're trying to solve this. I am very skeptical of, if it's under your plate again that happens, we got to have a staff member that's given the authority, that has the authority to do the job. And we don't have any name right now. We don't know who that is.
Right, it would be.
You mentioned maybe 3 departments.
Without any question, it's going to require the assistance from 3 different departments, without any question. I have not yet named a specific department. It's likely going to be community development or fire, and not finance. Finance will be serving more in an ancillary role. It wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for me to just determine that communication right now this evening. I will add, though, Councilmember Stevens and Councilmember Spolman, the part of the cause, I think, for the anxiety in doing this is exactly the reason why we want to do this. This brings this back under our roof. This brings the authority back to the city. If there are issues, if there are concerns, which there will be, I'll sit here tonight right now and say there is going to absolutely be issues or concerns or something over time that will happen with this program, without question, just given the nature of the program. The authority, though, is back to us. It's back to the city. And so if there's something that happens that needs our oversight to come in, we now actually have that ability, because we're the ones that are managing the contract. Whereas the relationship right now, we have no authority. The city relinquished that authority, and by default, because the county has the authority or the service that they offer currently, it's with the county. If the county did not offer that service, it would have been with the State of Michigan itself.
Okay, if there's nothing further, then I think what we need is to have a motion to approve the resolution to adopt the ordinance.
Is it this one?
Yes.
Yeah. We got multiple ones. Is that public?
I'll
hearing?
make the motion to introduce Resolution 2014-3059, resolution to introduce and set public hearing. Is that the one? All right, you pointed the wrong one. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. To approve a resolution 2014-08 to amend the city code to designate enforcing agency to discharge city responsibilities under the Still-Dosher-Hale Single State Construction Code Act.
Do we have a support?
I'll tell you that I'm still going back to the uncomfortableness. I know this is what we need to do, but I've watched this movie too many times where we say we're going to do something and we approve it, and then it doesn't change. I'm a little nervous about, we go with this okay, and we don't have, I thought the public brought out some excellent points. And I don't see right now where we have a course to solve that. And until we know, that we have a staff person that's got that authority that can deal with this, that's been given the charge to do it, I'm really nervous.
Well, if I may, again, I'm the head of the staff, and so until there's a communications plan in place regarding how this will function administratively, if there's any issues, it would ultimately come to me, and I would be the one that would have the authority to call up AGS to say, hey, here's where things are at. Even if, or even when, I do have a designated department as being, here's the department that's going to be responsible for the oversight of the contract, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm still out of the picture. I could always get back in the picture if it warrants it. So I don't know if that helps. But this action tonight doesn't bring the service back here tomorrow. I mean, this is something that's going to happen at the earliest, middle of October. So.
I also would like to ask probably Anthony if I can provide some information so that you might have some discussions with the people that I talked to, so that you are aware of actual experiences that they had. Okay.
So refresh the memory of this deadline here of.
We've got a dangling motion out there. We either have to support it
or not,
and have a discussion, or, sorry.
They have the
I'll support the motion so that we can continue to have this discussion.
Okay. Go ahead.
The State of Michigan Construction Codes Commission, if I'm saying that correctly, meets only a few times a year. They're meeting in October. I believe in the middle of the month. They require the state's copy of our fee schedule, copy of how the program is going to function. Is there anything else, Anthony, that goes along with it? Probably a copy of the ordinance in our code.
Basically, by the middle of August.
Anthony, if you could go back to the mic, I'm sorry.
The Bureau of Construction Codes meets periodically throughout the year, and their next scheduled meeting is in October. And anything to go onto their docket for the October meeting needs to be received by them 45 days in advance minimum. So we're looking middle of August, I think August 18th, I believe, I could be wrong on that, but right in that ballpark. Everything that they need is basically our fee schedule, policies, procedures, the Construction Code Board of Appeals. How are we, what they want to know from our understanding and through reviewing the application is how are we going to deliver and administer the enforcement of construction codes? That's the information, from my understanding, that they want to have, top to bottom.
Which is why we're here this evening, because we legislatively got rid of all of this a few years ago, which is why legislatively we need to bring it back into place.
And I'm just asking this, Anthony seems the most knowledgeable of this. Is there a reason that it's not going under his authority?
Under Anthony's sole authority?
Yeah, they'll have that person that's in charge of the program.
It's possible that it may. I just haven't made that determination.
Why, I don't understand why we don't know it. So we know a plan that's in place and...
The city previously did not have it within the fire department under the oversight. It was, even though we did have a fire marshal at that time as well, the city previously had it under the oversight of basically its own department. It was, I believe, under community development as well that helped put some management into it. But Bob was a rather independent, the former inspector, independent employee. There are going to be issues that we touch upon because of general plan review of new buildings and projects that come across that will be the community development department's responsibilities. Then there's going to be items that they don't touch that the fire marshal touches only as well. So I just need to weigh essentially what we think is going to make the most sense from an administrative role and from an administrative function. And I'm just not prepared this evening, unfortunately, to say exactly which department's going to touch it.
When Anthony was speaking earlier, he said that the information that we have to have available to be put on the docket in October, we have to have the complete structure outlined, correct?
My understanding.
They need to have a plan. They need a-
We should know.
That was one of my
Yeah,
reasons
so we
I
will
heard
know.
that.
Yeah, we will know. And
But
so-
I think that's going to be the key of the success of it, or the not success.
Well, if it's required by them, we
Right.
have to put it together.
Of
And-
who that is. I think that's going to be the key, though, where that lays. And who has the knowledge and can do the job of it.
Sure.
And that's what's concerning me now, is not knowing that, because we got to go exactly where you're saying, and I agree with that. I just want to make sure we have some of these issues addressed in a good plan, so that we're going forward with some of these, like Councilmember Spolman said, where we're going forward, because we've had 3 years, and the plan hasn't gotten better that whole 3 years. And when there were concerns, they never seem to get addressed, and that's what we got to make sure we're positioned to do that going forward.
Okay, is there anything else? All right. Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Malma,
Yes.
Shippers, Spolman,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you very much, members of council. The next public hearing is on this exact same topic, and this is with respect to the fee schedule itself. The request this evening would be, after you open and then close the public hearing, would be to adopt an ordinance that would amend sections 48-3 and 48-14 of our code that would bring back the fee schedule, put it back in place.
All right. So at this time, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
Dale Whaley, 215 Wright Street again. You are aware that we're required as contractors to carry a code book in our vehicle at all times. Right now, we're working off the 2009 code book. We still haven't got our 2011, let alone our 2014. Now, if you hire a firm, where are we going to stand with our codes?
I'm going to go out on a limb and ask for someone maybe to correct me, but that's going to be based on our adopted codes that we have, what building codes we're using. Is that correct?
Construction codes adopted by the state. We have no ability to, if we want to use the International Building Code 2002, we can't. That's all used, it's all adopted by the state. We have there's no local authority. So as the code cycle, the states, when they say we go from 2009 to 2012 to 2015.
So if they're using the 2009, that's because that's what the state is using, and that's what the county is using.
Yeah, that's universal across the state.
Thank you, Anthony.
Was there anyone else who would like to speak?
Mark Vanderboom once again. From what I've heard so far, there just seems to be so many unknowns in this contract. It concerns me as a citizen beyond being a builder at this point. I think more of this contract needs to be studied and disclosed. You know, there's a lot of times that we go to an inspector with a question on code where it's a bit ambiguous. How are they going to respond to that type of situation? I just think it sounds that more needs to be known of how this contract's going to function. With all respect.
Thank you. I would think that as part of that structure that they would have contact information that contractors could call directly. Yes, with questions?
Yes. In fact, Mr. Gale basically testified to that when he was here.
Right. So you would have access to them just like you have access to the inspector now?
Don't you plan on also doing a education seminar? I'll just call it a seminar, but an educational outreach to the builders and to the community?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he did offer to do that. Is there anyone else?
And Bigelow again. I guess that what I would say is whatever happens to the contractors, we just pass it on to the homeowner or the one that's hiring us to do the work. That's where it ends up. So it's our citizens in this community that's going to end up paying the bill.
Okay, is there anyone else? If not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
First question I was waiting on this public hearing was that administrative fee.
The 5%?
The 5%. Mr. Pecha, just to get a better understanding of what that administrative fee covers on the city's end.
It would be easier, Councilmember Stevens, members of council, to try to advise as to what we're going to be responsible for. And again, it's going to be growing pains, as I like to call it, on our end as well, once this program becomes up and running. We're going to have time involved with respect to the intake of plans coming in, requests for permits, and so on. Even though AGS is going to be responsible for the management of those permits and plan reviews and everything that goes along with it, people are more likely than not, at least initially, going to be coming to the city with their plans and with their questions and their ideas, in which we're going to have to manage. Additionally, we're going to have to manage a file system here as well. without question, we're going to want to make sure that we're tracking plans that come in or things that are submitted to us, even though we're going to just be basically turning that right around and getting that to the proper contact over at AGS for them to take at that point. We're also going to be responsible for managing the money trail, if you will. As it was presented previously, the payments are going to be made out to the city, regardless if we're accepting them in first person, if it's being handed over the counter, or whether people are paying inspectors for the fees on site at a building site. You know, any checks are all going to be made out to the city of Cadillac. So again, that's going to require work on our end to set up the proper funding system, accounting system, again, to take that revenue in and to track it. And then obviously, as invoices come in then from AGS on a monthly basis, we'll have to make sure that things are matching up correctly based upon what we're taking in as we then pay those invoices out. Those are the more immediate things that come to mind. In addition to that, there is going to be certainly some review work that our fire marshal is going to be doing as well. We do not have our own independent fee for that. Ultimately, the agent, which is AGS, which is the responsible party for signing off on all the documents that are going to require an actual, stamp or signature, they will be collecting and holding, onto those fees. Granted, as I mentioned, we take the fees in, but we'll be invoiced and the money will then be coming back out again. We actually initially thought that we might need a fee even as high as 15% to try and look at trying to cover our costs. In fact, that was something that we originally proposed, but then after further review, we knocked it back down, all the way down to 5%. And then as our community development director this evening presented, we're going to have to monitor this. I mean, we're going to be getting back into the business. We don't really know what the volume is going to be. We don't really know exactly how much time, effort, and city resources are going to be required on this program. But certainly, we do have the ability of amending our fees from time to time. And I will reiterate, while it's unusual to see fees themselves go down, the administrative fee component to it certainly can be adjusted as well if it looks like we're doing a lot better than what we thought. One key note, and I apologize for this long answer, members of council, is that the fees that we collect for this program need to stay within the program. And so it's not as if the city can assess exorbitant fees that I could then take and use to buy a new police car or something to that end. Going back to the tracking of it, the fees need to stay within this program itself and can only be used to reimburse for things that are directly related to the management of this program.
So if I could ask, how did we land on the 5%? I'm sure that, people are going to want to know.
No, that's a very fair question.
How did you research that, or how did you come up with the 5%
Sure.
when you started at 15%?
Sure.
How did you figure that out?
It's a very fair question. And to be honest with you, we were taking a stab in the dark when we were looking at the 15% level, trying to, again, assess what our costs are. We do know what it costs, for an administrative assistant. We really don't know what the volume is going to be. And looking at where other fees are at, and we do have some administrative fees already in place in the city, which I believe are a little lower than 5%. We did feel that that level would be reasonable and would not be construed as being exorbitant for the program.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I need to back up just a second, because I'm thinking back to the slides that we saw, the rates on. Was that 5% already built into that? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Where is the...
Councilmember Stevens, if I may, just very quickly, I'm sorry. Just one of the things that you did see this evening on the slideshow presentation, those were estimates of what a potential project might be all in. That that's taking various assumptions into being numbers of outlets and numbers of different things that will go into a remodeling project. So, it wouldn't be fair for somebody to look at that and say, okay, if I'm going to redo my kitchen, then I know, it's going to be X if I was with the county or whatnot.
No, I understand.
Yeah. Sorry, Councilmember Stevens.
I was just looking in the proposed ordinance and trying to see where that 5% fee is indicated. I know there's other sections that talk about, is one of the charges is an administration base fee. And then I was trying to find where that 5% administration fee lands.
Yeah, I believe it's in there. I think the numbers, Councilmember Stevens, include it. I need to flip to it.
Yeah, I've seen that in there as well.
Anthony?
Yes.
If you can just verify that the fee numbers in the proposed ordinance, those included the administrative fee, is that correct?
Yes, we took the original proposal from AGS. We took all of their entire proposed structure, all the figures, and adjusted them up 5%.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Spolman, you're being quiet.
Yep. It's a lot of work. I'm just willing to move forward now with this stuff. Recognizing people in the audience who are sitting here for a further agenda item.
Yep. Okay. Could we have a motion then to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to adopt ordinance 2014-07 to amend sections 48-3 and 48-14 of the Cadillac City Code regarding building services related fees.
Thank you.
Support.
Sandy, could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers, Spolman,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Melama,
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries. Next on our agenda is communications. Sandy?
Yes, we have one this evening. It's a request from Mike Battaglia for a street closure on Lake Street between Pine and Chapin on August 30th, 2014, from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Additionally, the closure of the lakefront parking lot, which is the one across from the farmers market, on August 29th at 3 p.m. to August 30th at 3 p.m. for the Festival of the Races.
I'll make a motion to approve the closure of Lake Street between Pine and Chapin on August 30th from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. and the closure of the lakefront parking lot on August 29th from 3 p.m. to August 30th at 3 p.m. for the Festival of the Races.
Support?
Sandy, could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Spolman,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Melama,
Yes.
Shippers, Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries. And then we now have the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The first item is with respect to live fire training. I do have some additional information from what is in your packet. The Cadillac Fire Department has been given a chance to send 2 firefighters to complimentary live fire training, September 27th, 2014. The training is being put on through the Illinois Fire Service Institute in Champaign, Illinois, which is downstate Illinois. Sorry, Randy, it's not outside of Chicago.
Okay.
About 7 hours from there. Okay. This will give the firefighters experience in battling live fire in a 7-story high-rise structure, a mixed-use commercial and residential structure where there's commercial on the first floor and then residential on the second floor, somewhat similar to what we have here in downtown Cadillac, as well as in a quote-unquote standard residential structure itself. So this is really a great opportunity for our department to take advantage of. As I mentioned, the training itself is complimentary. Certainly, the transportation to get down there, lodging and meals are not. There are funds available to do this, and it is my recommendation this evening that the council concur with that recommendation and approve the out-of-state travel.
I think that would be wonderful to be able to provide that. Could we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the request for out-of-state travel for 2 firefighters to attend the free live fire training on September 27, 2014.
Support.
Sandy, could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Malama?
Yes.
Shippers? Spolman?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This next item is with respect to a police patrol vehicle purchase. We did receive bids for a new police patrol vehicle, or PPV for short. The recommendation this evening is to acquire a 2015 Ford Police Interceptor through Signature Ford of Owasso, Michigan, in an amount of $25,488. Funds are available within our operating budget, this fiscal year's operating budget. And just as a point of reference, we basically drive these vehicles till the wheels fall off, and this new vehicle would be replacing a vehicle with over 80,000 miles on it currently.
It's amazing how close those bids came in.
Yeah. If I may, part of that is, I believe, because they're authorized dealers on the state bidding list.
We don't have any authorized dealers locally on the state bidding list.
We have tried in the past, in working specifically with the Ford dealership, had asked how come, their price, which they said this is, zero profit margin, just simply trying to do it, why it can't come close.
So do they pay to be a part of that list?
I don't exactly know how they become a part of it. I think part of it has to deal with the volume that they purchase from the manufacturer.
Oh, they buy it in bulk and then, okay, got
and they're able to get a lower price.
That makes sense. And they're probably really big dealerships. Yeah.
Could be.
Okay, could we have a motion to award the purchase?
I will make a motion that we approve the bid for $25,488 from Signature Ford to be awarded to purchase a new police patrol vehicle.
Support. Go ahead.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers? Spolman?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Malama?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. There were 2 add-on items this evening under the City Manager's report. If I may move forward.
Can we,
Are you going to do the lakefront playground?
can we do the lakefront playground?
Sure.
Because these folks have been sitting here
That's,
through this very long meeting. So if we could do that first, I would appreciate it, and I think that they would too.
Let me just look at my agenda.
That's under your report.
Oh, yes, it is. I'm sorry. I did not see that. Thank you. Yes, Cadillac leadership class. Yeah, how about that? You almost had to sit through another 15 minutes or so.
I saved you.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
They're pretty comfortable. So.
Yes. If I could just, before you introduce yourself, if I may just draw council's attention, I believe there is a printout left at your seats.
Thank you.
The bids came in the day after our packets went out. And then this presentation this evening will go through what was received and what's being recommended.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to thank the whole community for all your support. It's been overwhelming, the amount of money that we've raised and the amount of support that we've gotten from everybody. So
Thank you.
it's been
Could
really
you
awesome.
introduce yourself, please?
Oh, yes. I'm Eric Seguin. I work at Cadillac Casting and representing the leadership group. So
Thank you.
So, yeah, the first part of this thing is we laid out after we raised all the money, we laid out the bid requirements. We developed a layout of the area. I think everybody's probably pretty familiar with where we're thinking of putting it, where the swing set used to be. And we developed the site layout, and we developed specifications for the site. Those were approved by the DNR as part of the DNR Passport Grant. And the big thing was it had to be an inclusive play structure, which means that it's ADA compliant. Main structure is wheelchair accessible, and there's also interactive panels to help with visual, auditory, and sensory disabilities as well. Our layout included accessible swings, spinners like merry-go-rounds, and a roller table, which is, got a picture of it coming up here. We had 2 bids that came in, Sinclair Recreation and Superior Play. See the prices there, $120,000 and $124,000, which is, they aren't too far apart, but what really set Sinclair Recreation apart was the fact that they would be installing the structure. Superior Play, they would have supervision here, but we would be installing the structure. And it gives us a much better feeling having professionals that do this all the time build the structure.
And they're the lowest bid.
Yes, yeah, and they're the lowest bid by $4,000, so. Both meet the DNR requirements and are ADA compliant. The only difference really between the two was how the structures connected together. One used a clamp type connection, the other used bolts going through like a pin in a hole to connect it, so that's really the major design difference. Yeah, as I said, our recommendation is to go with Sinclair Recreation because of the installation done by people that do it all the time instead of us. And we feel that their connection will work better. And the really cool thing is if we approve it soon, we could have the structure complete by Labor Day. So could still have a little bit of summer fun there. And the $4,000 savings. That's always a big one too. Here is one view of it. You can see the swings kind of there in the back of it. There is 2 wheelchair accessible swings, 2 toddler swings, and then 2 regular belt swings in the back. See, there is a double slide, kind of monkey bar things. I don't know if this thing has a pointer on it or not. I don't think it does. A couple benches, and the whole, or anything that is accessed with a wheelchair is this rubber surfacing, this kind of hard rubber surfacing that they can wheel on, but it's also will absorb shock if somebody were to fall on it. Here's another view of it. You can see the merry-go-round and the roller table, and then there's also called a,
Oh, that's cute.
It's amazing.
a sway fun glider. A glider that kind of, yeah, like a teeter-totter that kind of glides back and forth. And that's accessible with a wheelchair as well, so. Yeah, any questions about it?
How much money did the leadership class raise?
Around 70,000.
Wow. And how much was the grant?
The grant was 45,000, and there is a 15,000 city match.
Okay.
For that grant.
You guys did amazing.
That's great, 70,000.
The rubber surface,
Wow.
they have some idea of the snow we get up here, don't they?
Yeah, they've built these structures all over the state.
All right. Okay.
And they don't get too hot either, I think, in the summer. Well, they wouldn't up here.
No, not up.
They wouldn't have much of a chance.
So obviously, we need to prepare the space for it, right? Do we do that then?
We already cleared a tree, didn't we?
The former swing sets have been cleared.
Yeah, but it looks like if you're laying that thing, do we have to pick up the sod or not?
Yeah, we have,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, we have, I believe Dunbar lined up to do that.
You guys are taking care of that for us? All right.
concern for the low elevation in the area and the water that does collect. There's a large berm near the road that we're going to try to match the elevation to
Okay.
provide runoff.
Oh,
Because
Good idea.
in the spring, that whole area was underwater. When we removed the old swing set, there was water in the holes, so it's
Yeah.
gonna come up a little bit.
it's good to take time and watch how things change during the seasons around here.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Well, it's crazy that you come here and thank us, and we should be really expressing the thank you to your leadership class, because number one, I know officially your class graduated a month ago, and look at how many people are here. And that amount that's been raised is phenomenal. I mean, it's compared to other projects, we've been so fortunate to have this partnership with the leadership class and the chamber, because the community benefits. And I know I could speak on behalf of the council. We, although the chamber sent on a message to the city about your leadership graduation and the chamber dinner, that accidentally didn't get passed on to council. And I know that we would all love to have been there to thank each of you for your whole class for what you've done, because this is going to be a great benefit for the community.
And I heard that your class was the best.
Wait a minute.
But I have to tell you, as a leadership graduate, I heard the same thing. I know.
But if you, I mean, I know they're not here, but if you could pass on to the full class, I mean, how much we all appreciate it. And this project's going to be an amazing addition to the community, so thanks. And I'd like to make a motion that we approve the bid for $120,000 for Sinclair Recreation.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Spolman?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Melama?
Yes.
Shippers? Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Thank you, guys.
I think I heard Shippers.
Right now.
In the distance.
I'm sure
She's
she's
going to answer, and then Sandy's going to fall off her chair.
I think I heard a little
Thank
echo
you.
of a yes.
Thank you. Sorry it took so long.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. The next item is an add-on item. The first one that I'd like to brief you on is with respect to an emergency purchase that I had made regarding our phone system. As I believe all of you know, the city's telephone system is currently not operating as it should. Just for a frame of reference, our system operates through what's called an automated attendant feature. You call the city's main number, 775-0181. The system automatically connects you. If you know a party's extension, if you dial it right away, it'll ring the phone on that desk. Otherwise, it gives you a series of prompts to try to get you to the right department. And if you basically zero out, you'll then reach a member of staff, assuming there's a member of staff available at that time to actually answer the phone. Otherwise, you go back into the system and you can leave a message on the main voicemail component of it. The entire phone system itself had essentially a systems flaw early last week, where it went down. We were able to get the system partially back up and running. Unfortunately, the automated attendant component, along with the voicemail component itself, is dead. And given what our staffing levels are and how we operate, those two are absolutely essential for us to be able to continue operating. It's been very difficult, as I know even our city attorney can attest. You tried calling and you didn't get anywhere, did you? It just kept ringing and ringing and ringing. That being said, we were able to get a couple of different price quotations I did move forward with the lower one. The lower one is going to update the system. We'll be able to continue to utilize our same desktop hardware. The higher price quotation actually would require that we replace all of our desktop phones. As time goes on, we will be able to replace our desktop phones, with the update to the system that we're putting in right now, but we're not required to. So it's compatible with what we have. And by code, I need to report to the City Council within 10 days of making an emergency purchase that exceeds my spending authority, which is what I'm doing here this evening. For the public record, I will say that the purchase went to ASCOM North for $13,575. The alternate that we were looking at was for $25,084. So.
Big difference. Now, when are they going to have this done?
I don't know exactly is the honest answer. There were, I believe, texts here today. I saw an ASCOM North van here this afternoon. We expect to be up and running within 5 to 10 business days, back to where we were before. But this is technology. It's going to require an installation. It's essentially a computer system, and we have that range of time of 5 to 10 days.
That's what they gave you?
That's what they gave us.
Okay.
The second item this evening is with respect to correspondence that we had received from Herring Township. This was in response to correspondence that I had sent out to the township after City Council publicly offered a proposal to the township based on the request for the acquisition of a water main north of 13th Street. City attorney will advise as to what the basic next steps are at this point.
So we received a letter from Herring Township's attorney regarding the sale of the water main. What I thought was most prudent is to bring this to the attention of the City Council, mostly because their attorney would like for us to draft the necessary documents to convey the water main. And so we'll, with the approval of the City Council, we'll undertake that process. I suspect that all of those agreements then will be subject to your review and final approval, just as they will be at Herring Township as well. So we haven't done anything with this letter yet, knowing that we had the meeting coming up tonight. We just received it on, or it's dated the 15th, and I think I got it a day or two after that. So it's timely, but we're starting to, in anticipation of, because this was what we determined was the fair market value, we've started putting together the necessary documents for that transfer.
Is there any action the council needs to take this evening, though?
You can either, you can either pass a motion, I suppose, directing us to prepare those documents, and then subject to review and approval by council.
I'll make that motion to move forward with the sale of the water mains to Herring Township by directing our attorney to prepare the documents that we will review.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Malama?
Yes.
Shippers? Spolman?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, can we move on to
Yes.
the introduction of ordinances and resolutions?
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. We do have one introduction this evening. This would be to adopt a resolution that would introduce an ordinance that amends Section 18-21 and -22 of our code pertaining to fire service recovery fees, and setting a public hearing for your August 18th, 2014 meeting. The City of Cadillac currently does not have any cost recovery fees with respect to essentially sitting on downed utility lines, whether they're gas lines or electric lines or whatnot. And that is something that we do on a frequent basis. This measure will, or this amendment, should it be approved later in August, would allow the city to actually collect fees for the resources and time that's spent on watching these lines until such time that the proper utility company is able to come out and take over at that point. And the action this evening, again, would be to set the public hearing for August 18th.
Thank you. I don't know who spent the time on this, but thank you. This has been a thing on my radar for years, as Marcus well knows, and I know it's been dated that it's not a lot of funds, but it's something that gets some extra revenue to the community. But I think what's also missed when you talk to the utility companies, if they don't have to pay the city and they have to pay other areas, guess where they go first? They're going to go to the areas where they have to pay those governmental units because of the time. So that also makes sure our citizens and Clam Lake citizens get a faster response as well. So thank you. I don't know if that was the fire department that helped put that together, but thanks for doing that.
Good job, Owen.
Or Owen? Yep, thanks.
A small amount, yeah.
Teamwork, yes. Okay, could we have a motion?
Motion to adopt resolution introducing ordinance amending Section 1821 and Section 1822 of the Cadillac City Code regarding fire service recovery fees, and set a public hearing for August 18, 2014.
Support.
Sandy, could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Malama?
Yes.
Shippers? Spolman?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Motion carries.
Mayor and members of council, if I may move on. The next item is a request for a resolution supporting local community stabilization and personal property tax reform without raising taxes. It's another mouthful. This is a model resolution that was put together with respect to advocates for Proposal 1 that'll be on the August primary ballot. This is with respect to the personal property tax reform that is already underway. This process started effectively January 1 with the removal of the requirement for businesses to pay personal property taxes on items that are valued at $40,000 or less. But the actual full reform of the act will not be in place until after a successful referendum vote of the people of the state of Michigan occurs, which is again scheduled to occur on August 5th. Why is this important for the city of Cadillac? Why does the city of Cadillac need to consider looking at such a resolution? I would offer that there has been a tremendous amount of work in Lansing with respect to formulating a reimbursement provision after reforming and eliminating the personal property tax. Over a year ago when this was being talked about, and then about a year ago when it was actually looked at, there was no reimbursement provision that was frankly going to be a real equitable one. There was a lot of talk about an 80% reimbursement. At this point, it's actually up to 100%. Certainly, as I say that, there's a lot of fine print, a lot of details to it, but this is a much better option for the city. It has the full support of not just the County Association for the state, the Townships Association for the state, also the Michigan Municipal League is backing this and recommending its passage. Associations representing various organized labor groups across the state are also supporting this tax reform. there is no Plan B. Should the referendum fail, should the tax be eliminated, or excuse me, should the tax elimination not occur, there will be another lame duck session, if you will, of the state legislature this year, and it's certainly possible that at that juncture they might simply remove the tax without having any reimbursement provision at all. Again, why is this important to Cadillac? Cadillac is very lucky to have a very strong and robust industrial sector. We count on these dollars to help us pay for our roads and pay for our police and firefighters. And if that revenue just simply evaporates, Cadillac, along with many other communities across this state, are going to really be in financial trouble. We receive, Owen, correct me if I'm wrong, approximately $700,000?
Yep, annually.
Annually, from the current collection of the personal property tax. If there's no Plan B, and if the state removes the property tax later this year, should they choose to do that, without any reimbursement provision, we would be in trouble. What is, I would call, a nice way of resolving the issue of reimbursements to the local level happens to deal with how the state's planning on doing it. The referendum question that the state's going to be posing in a couple of weeks essentially reallocates a portion of the use tax that's already in place. The use tax that everybody pays, the 6% use tax, will be reallocated where a portion of that goes back to the municipalities. There's no tax increase to anybody. The state is funding this program through the expiration of current tax credits that are out there, such as mega tax credits and some other incentive programs that are no longer going to be, or that are coming off the rolls, if you will. So that's how they're coming up with their dollars to be able to fund this program. So at this point, my request is for a recommendation moving forward to approve it.
Well, I think it's really important for us to do this, and it is good to hear your explanation of it and to provide education to our public. This is the only proposal that's going to be on the August ballot, and there are really no groups out there that are opposing this. That's how good this is. And yet people are still confused about it when they read it, because I guess they don't trust government. And so they really wonder if it is a benefit to their local community, or is it just the state's way of pushing something down, again, at the local level. And I want to encourage people to not feel that way, to feel comfortable with voting for this.
It's hard, in fairness, because we've been there as a council for years, because we heard the same with Proposal A, that they'll make us whole. And that's the concern. I mean, there's still, we're looking at, I think at one time, Mr. Roberts mentioned, is it about 20% of our budget is personal?
20% of our taxable value is personal property.
It's personal property.
And about 10% of our overall general fund budget then.
So it's hard. I've had that same question come up. People are saying, wait, we heard that with Proposal A. And how you know people are watching the meetings is when we show charts that say this is what we lost through Proposal A. So it's millions. And so that shows that, wow, there's citizens watching this, because they've asked that same question as, that was supposed to happen with Proposal A and it didn't, so what says it's not this time?
It's different.
And that is a fantastic question, Councilmember, that you asked, because in the sort of peer groups that I'm a part of, that's still part of the conversation that we have with respect to Proposal A and revenue sharing, and look at what happened to all the municipalities with respect to revenue sharing, and how, you know, some of them, like ourselves, are out millions of dollars. How do we know that we're going to receive the funding back? We don't really know. We have faith that through the through the referendum vote and the reallocation of the use tax specifically to reimburse municipalities, that they're going to be obligated to actually reimburse us back. And that's kind of the key point to all of this, which is in earlier iterations of this tax reform, the state was going to require the municipalities to actually put in place a special assessment to be able to reimburse themselves up to certain levels. That's all gone away. So the state's taking full ownership of this tax reform through the reallocation of the use tax. And again, I think one of the reasons why there's a lot of support behind this is because there is no plan B. You know, they're able to basically come out at this point and say that municipalities can look forward to basically 100% reimbursement based upon certain levels back in 2012. They're building in, I believe, some sort of annual adjustment provision so that it'll ratchet up on an annual basis as well. But there is no plan B. So should this fail, and should there still be enough of a desire by the state to eliminate this tax, there is no other reimbursement plan in place. And it is possible that the tax could get removed just before the end of the year without any reimbursement provision in place, which is why folks in these various groups like the Michigan Municipal League are reaching out to their membership saying, hey, this is important that you get behind and support and get your communities to support, get that word out there that the voters need to seriously take into consideration this proposal as it'll be posted on the ballot in August.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution number 2014-3061, supporting local community stabilization and personal property tax reform without raising taxes.
Do we have support?
Thought he was doing
support.
Thank you. Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers, Spolman.
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
Melama.
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, next on our agenda, we have been provided minutes of the Cadillac Wexford Transit Authority meeting that was held on June 19th, as well as the minutes from a meeting held on June 30th for our review. At this time, we will open the floor for public comments. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, and if you would please introduce yourself and where you are from.
Well, good evening. State Representative Phil Putman, 129 Petrie Road, right here in Cadillac. Very proud to be here tonight, and it's been an exciting meeting, especially the resolution that you just adopted. Thank you very much. It falls right in line, definitely, with, as our city manager brought up, what the state legislature has laid out and what we're looking for, but we really need the support of all of our voting citizens. As Councilman Spielman mentioned, that we need that yes vote to make this happen. Yes makes it happen. So please, all of you listening at home, if you haven't voted absentee yet, come and do it right now, or come to the polls in 2 weeks, because we're only 2 weeks away. Yeah. Well, it's been a nice time to be back in Cadillac, to be seeing my constituents, especially all of you, and I thank you for this opportunity again this evening to come back. And yes, I too am running to refill 102 and to stay in my spot with working with all of you, and it's been a real pleasure, because I think this is how we've been able to move Michigan forward, is totally through working together. The communication has been excellent. Marcus, when he's had some questions, some ideas for me, has been very quick to get on that phone, call me, and let me know, Phil. And also coming to visit me, as all of you did, in Lansing. Again, thank you very much, because these are the opportunities that we have to ensure that our communication is moving very smoothly, because that's what it's all about. I do constantly remind our governor, though, that one size does not fit all. In the rural Michigan, we do take care of our own, and we don't need near the amount of money that Detroit does, but we sure don't want them having all of it either. So that's why I voted no on the 5 Detroit funds, voted yes on the 6 proposals that require Detroit to do some things for themselves. So sadly, those 5 pieces, the no's, I just didn't have quite enough colleagues with me on that, but that's happened a few other times. Are there any questions at all that you might have for me? Okay, well, again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and keep up the good work, and please, please, keep in correspondence. And to keep up with my reputation, I do have a photo for Councilman Stevens, because, as you know, the governor calls me Photo Phil.
Is it from the dunk tank?
No, it should have been. Thanks for the dunk tank.
Would have looked better in the dunk tank. No, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
So did you make more money on that than I did, or don't we know? We probably don't know.
Thank you, it's good to
After
see you.
they filled it up, you must have said refill, and they thought you meant the dunk tank, because as soon as they filled that thing back up.
Okay, are there any other individuals who would like to come up during public comment? If not, we'll go ahead and close public comment, and we'll step into good of the order. And we'll go ahead and start with Councilmember Malamo.
Just a couple things. One, fantastic turnout at the art festival. Was down there, record crowd it looked like. And same thing a couple weeks ago with the event down there. I think we can thank Mother Nature. I think that makes a big difference. And excellent turnout. It looked great. Looks like the organizations did very, very well. The other thing is that in August we will be meeting with the Cadillac Area Manufacturers Association, coming up with an agenda for the upcoming time. And if anybody has any suggestions, any manufacturers out there, please pick up the phone and let me know. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that I received several phone calls from the last meeting, and I want to reassure everyone that the issues and solutions over coffee that I started 2.5 years ago, because I was tired of the information that was being put out about the mayor and the former council, I will continue on my own, no matter what. I made that pledge to the community, and I made that pledge as a council member. I truly believe in transparency. I truly believe in honesty and honest answers. And so no matter what, I will continue on my own. So if you want to call me again, that's all right. But I want to reassure my people that have participated in the last 2.5 years, and the people that have called me, that I will continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevens.
Thank you. Wow, 2.5 years. Time does fly. I didn't realize it was that long. But thank you. I know, I remember when you started that, and I would be, mindful, at least if the council has that discussion. I think if having Councilmember Mellon stay with that as he developed that, and it's worked out really well, and I would concur about you staying on with that. It's amazing, just in the conversation tonight, it came up a couple times just with people during the meetings. So I think that's a lot you've been doing, and I concur about you staying as that person doing it. Secondly, it's probably more of a question, Mr. Pecha, but I wanted to, tomorrow night's special meeting, why we didn't do it tonight versus tomorrow, because we can't take action on that tomorrow, by the way it was noticed. Is this just to take the interviews? Is that all we can do at the special meeting?
I think council can also discuss and make a decision if they so wish. The meeting, I believe, was noticed for the purpose of having a work session for conducting the interviews for the CWTA seat. And I don't know if I'm saying that exactly verbatim. I'm not sure why that would prevent council from having a further discussion on what their feeling is for moving it forward. Regarding looking at tonight's schedule, I think it would have been difficult not knowing exactly how long the interviews might take. There's basically eight questions that I provided, which in theory may not take all that long to go through, but I don't know how long either candidate might answer them, and I was concerned about running up, into this meeting and not having enough time. So that's why we looked at another date.
I was just worried because we've had a couple months now where that seat's been unfilled, and
I'd like for us to be able to do the interviews, have the discussion, and hopefully make a decision.
get it done versus, I was concerned we had to wait till August 18th on that, so. Additionally, I did want to comment, I got the opportunity, I didn't think it was going to be as good of an opportunity as it ended up being, to go to the Gerald R. Ford Museum. They had on his would have been his 101st birthday, and also this is the 40th year of when he was inaugurated as president, and they have a 40 integrity at the helm ceremony they did, and James Baker was there. Very impressive, and I know I've been really reiterating lately about just making sure how we conduct business and making sure that we're doing everything the proper way. And I was amazed at the speech from James Baker and everything about President Ford, of how that was his notice, was the integrity and making sure we're doing things correctly, and when that was at such a difficult time. So it just kind of reiterated to me of where I've been pushing, that I just want to make sure that we really evaluate how we're doing some of these things. And I know I've been pressing, and by the way, even up to this week, still getting hit up by people that are supporters of all of us, saying, you know, with the concern with the amount of grievances and lawsuits, and seeing about us dealing with them. And I just really want to have the council really review of that process. I'm still concerned that we haven't been following that correctly and getting it into our hands to help make some of these decisions. And would really ask for each of us to look at that closely, just to make sure that it's going from the staff to us appropriately, so we can be involved. And thanks, I don't know if you're going to have the displaying of the Mayor's Award or not, for the Arts
The unveiling?
If that's here yet at the City Hall or not.
It is here, I believe. Is it here?
It is here.
Yeah, we could show. If someone would grab it for me.
Bruce, it's not
But that was part of mine.
That was part of
mine. So.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, you can definitely do it then, but
Yeah.
I was curious as to what the winner.
Yep.
We've been fortunate over the years of having some pretty darn nice
We had it again this year.
additions to our location here with the Mayor's Awards, so. Thank you. That's it.
You bet. Thank you.
Well, regarding the interviews tomorrow night, I appreciate having the questions in advance to look at, and I think they're excellent. They were really well put together. I was thinking about it, however, this afternoon, and I would like to suggest that we time limit each one so that they both have a limited amount of time. Normally, when you go into an interview process, you schedule it for either, 45 minutes or an hour or a half hour, whatever the case might be, and I think that we should do that with these. It's my suggestion.
That's a good suggestion.
I don't know if we want to talk about that, but that's what I'm putting out there for a suggestion, because one of the candidates could be
Real chatty.
real chatty, yeah. And if we just let them know right away at the beginning that, you know, both candidates are going to have the same amount of time, and this is how much time we have to get through 8 questions, you need to be able to adjust your thoughts and what you have to say accordingly. That would be my suggestion. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is the smoking ordinance that we were working on a couple of years ago in our parks, and I'm wondering whatever happened to that. My memory is that we were going to move that forward with some adjustments to it so that smoking would be banned from places where people congregate, like
The Arts Festival?
at the Rotary Pavilion during a concert, and at the Arts Festival and places like that, and that we were going to have appropriate signage in place. So I would like to ask that that get put back on the agenda. We haven't had much of a discussion about loitering this year, but it does continue to happen, to occur, and I have heard comments from community folk over the last couple of weeks related to that. And the biggest complaint that I have received is related to the language that is being used by groups of people in the parking lots and at the pavilion and other places within the city park. And I can't remember, but I believe our new ordinance specifically talks about profanity, but I might be wrong. So I appreciate our, in the Cadillac report, I saw that we are continuing to enforce that, and we've had a lot of discussions with folks, but we have to keep up the good work, because there are people who are reticent to even park in certain areas and to walk along the pathway in certain areas. And that's really unfortunate. You know, that park really needs to be enjoyed by everybody. Last week, we had our place plans revealed to us about what some creative minds have put together as to what they would like to see happen with the city park and the area behind, or to the west of Mitchell Street along Elk Avenue. And it was really exciting to go to the movie theater and see that unveiled. A lot of really good ideas. There was a letter to the editor last week related to that. And I believe the gentleman in the letter thought that it was a mistake to close Lake Street. That was one of the comments that was made. And that is a bit of a misconception. The plan does not call for the closing of Lake Street. It does call for the ability to put ballards up to close Lake Street during events. And that's not a lot different than what we currently do now. But related to this, and I love the plan, there have been some other comments that I have seen related to making sure that we keep a lot of the greenery down there, and a lot of trees if at all possible. This weekend at the art fair, which was a lovely art fair, the comment was made afterwards was, what a nice art fair that is. It's like a little village. The setting is so nice with all of these little roads, or sidewalks, with the booths along them, all leading to the center, to the fountain. And I saw people having their pictures taken out in front of the fountain. I mean, it was just beautiful. So as we move forward with that planning, I would ask that we keep that in mind too, and how we're going to continue to have that really nice atmosphere when we have the Festival of the Arts down there. So that's really important. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. While listening to your comments, Mike did check and Councilmember Stevens, we are going to amend that public posting. Thank you for bringing that up, because it does say in our code that you need to have, if you're going to take that, some kind of action, that it needs to be listed in the special notice. And so with the 18-hour noticing window, we still have that opportunity of doing that yet tonight. And being compliant. So thank you, that's a good save. Whether council forms some form of consensus tomorrow night is yet to be known, but at least you'll have that opportunity should you get there. Everybody, really, I echo your comments. I think that we had a tremendous show, obviously, last weekend. Major thanks to the staff that put in a lot of tireless work, making sure again that refuse was taken care of, that the park was trim and looking nice. As I mention a lot and often, we have a real limited number of folks out there, and so when they're taking care of that centerpiece, that jewel of our city, they're not out necessarily able to trim other city right-of-ways and park areas because they're focusing on that one. So if you do see some other areas that are a little long, they will be getting to them accordingly. But that was really a great opportunity. And again, I just wanted to mention to people, please, regardless of how you vote, it's important that you do take advantage of that opportunity in August. And please consider the information shared tonight regarding Proposal 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the Arts Festival. Nothing could have been more perfect about that event this weekend. Friday evening, actually Friday during the day, the park was crawling with people. The vendors come in early. They get, a half a day longer than they used to before we allowed them to set up. And they have good sales on Fridays, or on Friday along with Saturday, and they were just extremely happy. The work that went into that by the Artists Association and by the Arts Council and all of the nonprofits who did the food over the weekend, kudos to everyone. The entertainment was over the top on Friday evening. Normally after the symphony plays, the park kind of clears, and the symphony played for 2 hours on Friday evening. And it was elbow to elbow in the park. And the entertainment was a soloist from Grand Rapids, Diane Penning, who has sang with the orchestra before, and she's absolutely lovely. And a gentleman from Chicago joined her. And the orchestra did Broadway music, they did Disney music, so young and old enjoyed the evening. There were little people dancing, older people dancing. And the Rotary helped sponsor that entertainment for us on Friday evening. But again, it just couldn't have been more perfect. And a big, huge thank you to the city for making the park so beautiful. That little village was quite beautiful. And I will say that Mike and I drove by the park on Sunday morning early. We were going to after 26, and it was completely cleaned up. And how amazing that was. Because normally as an event planner, you get up the next morning and you got to go clean it up. And it was all done. It was just fantastic, total transformation. I too attended the place plan presentation. A huge shout out to Mike Coy, who has been very creatively presenting that and getting the word out into the community. There's a lot of excitement being generated with those discussions. And the ideas that you had about keeping that greenery are very, very good. The Arts Festival this weekend, every year there's a Mayor's Award given to those who choose to enter it. And this year, the winner is actually Shannon Nelson of Cadillac, a local artist. And it is a watercolor of Main Street. If you look at it, it looks like it's raining on Main Street. So this is going to be something very colorful and beautiful to add to our collection here. So if you haven't seen it, there it is. So, yeah.
Is it really watercolor or is it acrylic?
Did I say it wrong?
I bet it's
acrylic. I said it wrong. I'm sorry, I'm not an
The
artist.
colors are fantastic.
They are, so. And I think that is all I had for this evening. Oh, I did have one other thing that I wanted to ask, if it was possible for us to do. There's a lot of discussion in the community about our roads. And I know that we have some plans in place, but people are wondering if they can see some sort of a schedule that, you know, first of all, they would love to see their concern in the schedule somewhere and when it's going to happen. Is that possible for us to do?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And with that, then, that's all I have for this evening. And at this point, we are going to have that motion to go into closed session. And it's about halfway through in that first paragraph.
I would like to make a motion that we leave the open portion of the meeting, go into closed session to discuss pending litigation, the Blake R. Myring versus Civil Service Commission of the City of Cadillac case, number 14-25152-AS, and Clam Lake Township and Charter Township of Herring versus State Boundary Commission claim of appeal.
Do we have support?
Support.
Sandy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Spolman?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Melama?
Yes.
Shippers? Mayor Filkins?
Yes.
Hopefully we don't need to add anyone.
Isn't that beautiful?